Isn't it eerie how the legendary rock legend Phil Collins is often likened to the dark decay of the 1980s? Despite his profound impact on the American music scene, Phil Collins inexplicably finds himself despised by certain acquaintances. This inexplicable animosity cast a shadow over Phil's illustrious career, ultimately prompting him to bid farewell to the stage prematurely. However, multiple sources suggest that Phil's actual reason for retiring was his deteriorating eyesight due to illness. Nevertheless, the venom from his acquaintances played a role in intensifying Phil's insecurity within the unforgiving realm of Hollywood entertainment. To know what people who hate Phil say about him, don't miss this video. Daryl Stuermer. Daryl Stuermer's journey from being less than impressed by Peter Gabriel's performance to becoming a key figure in the world of Genesis and Phil Collins was filled with intriguing twists and musical evolution. In a career retrospective interview with Rolling Stone, Stuermer shared his experiences and insights into his time with these iconic musicians. The interview began with a lighthearted anecdote about Stuermer's initial impression of Peter Gabriel's performance. It's a story that highlights the unpredictability of musical journeys. Despite his less-than-impressed reaction at that moment, Stuermer would go on to achieve remarkable success with Genesis and Phil Collins. Joining a band led by Phil Collins brought its own set of challenges for Stuermer. One of the significant demands he faced was the expectation that live performances should closely replicate the studio recordings. Collins, known for his meticulous approach to music, insisted on maintaining the same sound quality on stage. Adapting to this requirement proved to be a complex task, as Stuermer shared that none of the Genesis members, including Collins and Mike Rutherford, read sheet music. Instead, they relied on their musical intuition and the ability to learn songs by ear. Stuermer's adaptability and musical talent allowed him to seamlessly integrate into this creative process. Although Daryl Stuermer was never officially considered a full member of Genesis, he harbored no bitter feelings about his role in the band. In fact, he shared that his role was often described as that of a touring member. He fondly recalled Phil Collins' humorous description of his position, referring to him as a permanent, part-time, temporary member. Stuermer appreciated the light-hearted approach to his status, emphasizing the camaraderie and mutual respect within the group. Despite the multiple instances of Phil Collins retiring and unretiring, as well as his intermittent decisions to stop touring and then return for one more show, Stuermer remained unwavering in his enthusiasm. He expressed his joy in every opportunity to perform alongside Collins and the band, savoring each moment on stage. This unwavering commitment to music and the genuine enjoyment of performing underscored the enduring passion that Daryl Stuermer had for his craft and his collaborations with Phil Collins and Genesis, Thompson. Thompson, the acclaimed drummer, known for his remarkable contributions to the music world, has had a career that spans multiple genres and collaborations with some of the industry's most iconic artists. His impressive resume includes performances with legends such as Frank Zappa and the Bee Gees, but it was his association with Genesis and Phil Collins that left a lasting mark on his career and personal experiences. Thompson's journey with Genesis began in 1977, when he was recruited as a touring drummer for the band. This pivotal moment would eventually lead to a long-lasting partnership with Phil Collins when Collins embarked on his solo career. However, the transition into the world of Genesis and the subsequent collaboration with Collins was not without its challenges. In a revealing interview with Rolling Stone in 2021, Thompson opened up about his time with Genesis and Phil Collins. He recounted that Collins had never conducted a formal audition for him. Instead, Collins had simply heard Thompson's music and offered him the job. This unique approach highlighted Collins's confidence in Thompson's abilities as a drummer. Thompson described the experience as the biggest adjustment I've ever had to make, musically and culturally. As the sole American in an all-British band, he often felt isolated. experiencing a sense of loneliness within the group. Despite the initial challenges, Thompson and Collins found common ground in their shared love for American jazz musicians, forming a deep connection. Thompson remembered, "We hit it off immediately," emphasis in the strong bond that transcended their cultural differences. However, Thompson's role as Collins' backup drummer was not without its complexities. Thompson candidly admitted that, with Phil Collins, he was just one of many talented individuals in the supporting cast. Whenever mistakes occurred during live performances, Collins would often look to Thompson for accountability. Their working relationship had its ups and downs over the years, marked by moments of tension and fluctuating dynamics. A significant turning point in their relationship occurred when Thompson was unaware of the personal challenges Phil Collins was facing in his life. One day, during a live performance, Collins expressed his frustration with Thompson in front of the entire crew, using strong language and criticizing Thompson's performance. The incident dramatically altered the vibe between them, creating an atmosphere of discomfort and discord. This strained interaction ultimately led to years of silence between Chester Thompson and Phil Collins. Bill Bruford. Bill Bruford, a highly respected drummer in the world of progressive rock, shared his experiences and reflections on his time with Genesis, shedding light on both the challenges and admiration he had for Phil Collins, the band's iconic drummer and frontman. Bruford's stint with Genesis posed certain challenges due to his musical preferences and approach to performance. He revealed that while he cherished music with emotional depth and enjoyed improvisation during live shows, this approach didn't necessarily align with Phil Collins' style. Collins was known for his precise and disciplined drumming, and he had a particular vision for how the band's songs should be presented on stage. Bruford recalled in Genesis Chapter and Verse that he was instructed to replicate Collins' studio sound during live performances, which created a rift within the group. Despite these challenges, when Bill Bruford reflected on his brief time with Genesis in an interview with Rock History Music, he had nothing but praise for Phil Collins. Bruford began by acknowledging Collins' exceptional talent, emphasizing his rhythmic prowess. He noted that Collins possessed the unique ability not only to compose and perform, but also to mimic and emulate the drumming styles of other musicians. This remarkable versatility showcased Collins as a true musical chameleon who could adapt to various genres and sounds. Bruford's admiration for Phil Collins extended beyond his musical abilities. He expressed sadness over what appeared to be Collins' unhappiness in recent years. Bruford believed that some of this unhappiness might be attributed to the physical health challenges that Collins had faced. This empathetic understanding demonstrated Bruford's compassion and empathy toward his former colleague. One aspect of Phil Collins' artistry that Bill Bruford deeply appreciated was the direct emotional connection between performer and audience that Collins achieved through his music. He described it as an amazingly direct connection and found it truly remarkable. Collins' ability to convey raw emotions and vulnerability through his songs resonated deeply with Bruford, highlighting the power of music to evoke genuine and heartfelt responses from listeners. Mike Rutherford. The story of Genesis, a legendary rock band with a rich history, stands in stark contrast to the typical high-profile band breakups that often involve drama, conflict, and lingering bitterness. In the case of Genesis, the camaraderie and genuine friendship between its members persisted even as they pursued their individual musical endeavors. After Phil Collins embarked on his highly successful solo career, and Mike Rutherford explored new musical horizons with his project, Mike Pauks the Mechanics, their bond remained strong. In an interview with Ultimate Classic Rock, Mike Rutherford reminisced about the enjoyable times he had hanging out with Phil Collins in 2017. At that time, his group was opening for Collins on tour. Rutherford emphasized that although the focus was on Collins during the tour, the possibility of future collaborations or projects was always on the horizon. He believed that Phil Collins, being the immensely talented artist that he was, couldn't stay away from the world of music for long. Rutherford expressed his excitement about the opportunity to spend time with Collins and saw it as a chance to continue creating music together, even if it was in a different capacity. Reflecting on their long and storied history, Mike Rutherford revealed that he had recently written a book that prompted him to engage in significant introspection. He came away from the experience with a profound appreciation for the incredible journey they had embarked upon as a band. Rutherford emphasized the tremendous luck they had experienced and, most importantly, the enduring friendship that had developed over the years. The bond among all the band members was remarkable, but the connection between himself, Phil Collins, and Tony Banks held a special place in his heart. Their relationship went beyond music. It was a profound and enduring friendship that had weathered the ups and downs of a long and successful career. As Genesis made the decision to bring their musical journey to an end, Mike Rutherford acknowledged the presence of some sadness. However, he also emphasized the overwhelming joy that came from being on stage with Phil Collins and Tony Banks. Their performances together were a testament to the enduring strength of their friendship and their shared passion for creating music. This sense of joy and camaraderie defined the essence of Genesis and encapsulated the unique bond that made their music so iconic. Andrea Berelli, Phil Collins, a name synonymous with chart-topping hits and musical greatness, had his humble beginnings in a band called The Real Thing. It was in this relatively obscure group that he first began to carve out his path to stardom. However, what makes this part of his journey truly intriguing is the presence of his future wife, Andrea Berelli, within the band's ranks. Phil Collins's encounter with Andrea Berelli would prove to be a pivotal moment in his life, not just personally, but also musically. In a candid interview with The Guardian in 2016, during the release and remastering of some of his early songs, Collins admitted that the dissolution of his marriage to Andrea was the catalyst for a creative outpouring that would lead to some of his most iconic songs. Collins reflected on his creative process, explaining that he didn't shy away from incorporating personal experiences into his music. He said, "People used to say to me, 'Don't you feel embarrassed showing your dirty laundry?' And really, I didn't, because it was the only way I knew how to write songs." This vulnerability and willingness to lay his emotions bare in his music would become a hallmark of his songwriting. However, Andrea Berelli had a different perspective on the situation. As the years passed and the details of their relationship were brought into the public eye, tensions between them escalated, particularly around the time of the release of Collins's memoir, Not Dead Yet, in 2016. Andrea felt that the book contained false claims about her and their relationship that were not only damaging to her reputation, but also emotionally distressing. In response to the allegations in the memoir, Berelli took legal action, suing Phil Collins for defamation. She stated through the Irish Independent that the book was the final straw. She asserted, "The book contains a number of wholly false statements about myself and my marriage to Phil, which have not only seriously damaged my reputation, but have also caused me considerable distress." She vehemently denied the portrayal of her as a homewrecker, a gold digger, and a bad mother, asserting that she divorced Phil Collins on the grounds of his adultery, and these grounds were never contested. Tony Banks. Tony Banks, one of the core members of Genesis, has had a slightly different trajectory in his post-Genesis musical career compared to Phil Collins and Mike Rutherford. In interviews, Banks has candidly discussed his perspective on his solo career, his role within Genesis, and his views on some of Phil Collins' choices. When asked about his solo career in an interview with Music Without Borders interviews, Banks acknowledged the immense success of both Phil Collins and Mike Rutherford in their solo endeavors. However, He pointed out that the success of Mike Plus the Mechanics, Rutherford's side project, had been a source of bittersweet feelings for him. Banks expressed his contentment with simply going along with the direction set by Collins and Rutherford within Genesis, highlighting his willingness to follow their lead and contribute to the band's collective vision. In another interview with Vulture in 2023, Tony Banks touched upon a specific point of contention related to one of Phil Collins's solo hits, In the Air Tonight. Banks revealed that Collins had claimed the song was originally intended as a Genesis track, a statement Banks disputed. However, he was quick to emphasize his admiration for the song, noting that it was one of his personal favorites from Collins's repertoire. Banks' comments hinted at the collaborative and sometimes complex creative process within the band. Addressing the future of Genesis, Banks confirmed that the band had indeed reached its end, but it wasn't due to disagreements or conflicts among the members. Instead, he attributed the decision to Phil Collins's health condition, which had made touring impossible. This statement clarified that the band's dissolution was not the result of internal strife, but rather a practical acknowledgement of the limitations posed by Collins's health. Peter Gabriel. The departure of Peter Gabriel from the progressive rock band Genesis marked a significant turning point in the group's history. However, what makes this chapter even more intriguing is the relationship between Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins, which has been the subject of long-standing debates in the annals of music history. Peter Gabriel's departure from Genesis was not marred by animosity or bad blood. Instead, it was a decision made voluntarily and of his own accord. This fact dispels the myth of any lingering tension between the two artists. In 2022, when Genesis embarked on their farewell tour, Peter Gabriel made a noteworthy appearance. He shared his perspective with Mojo magazine, stating, "Phil wasn't in as great a shape as he used to be, but they did a great job. Me going was a rite of passage, really. I'd been part of the creation of Genesis, so I wanted to be there at the end." Gabriel's presence on this tour underscored his enduring connection to the band and the music they had created together. In another interview with the Daily Mail, Peter Gabriel shed more light on his relationship with Phil Collins. He described Collins as the workaholic's workaholic, highlighting the relentless dedication that Phil brought to his craft. Gabriel also clarified that his departure from Genesis was not a result of any personal dislike or animosity within the band. Instead, it was a collective decision made as they each sought to explore their individual artistic paths. What makes the reconciliation and continued friendship between Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins even more heartwarming is the evidence of their camaraderie over the years. In 1988, during a special episode of This Is Your Life, dedicated to Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel sent in a recorded message. At the time, he was on tour with Amnesty International and couldn't be present in person. Gabriel's message conveyed a deep sense of pride and warmth as he said, "We're very proud of you, Phil, and I remember a lot of things. I remember the $5 that I lent you in 1972, and I remember that you could play the drums a lot better than I could. Anyway, I've been very pleased to see your meteoric success and how well you've done." Jimmy Page. The story of Phil Collins briefly joining Led Zeppelin for their performance at Live Aid in 1985 is a fascinating tale filled with unexpected twists and a blend of honor and controversy. The circumstances leading to Phil Collins's involvement with Led Zeppelin were unusual from the start. Following the tragic death of John Bonham in 1980, Led Zeppelin had gone on an extended hiatus. It wasn't until 1985 that the band decided to reunite for a historic performance at the Live Aid charity concert. However, the road to Collins's participation was far from straightforward. Led Zeppelin needed a drummer for their Live Aid performance, and they turned to Collins to fill the void. What made this decision even more remarkable was the fact that Collins had never rehearsed or played with Led Zeppelin before. In a whirlwind turn of events, Collins found himself performing with the iconic rock band in London and then hastily boarding a jet to cross the Atlantic to join them for their Philadelphia show on the same day. The intense and grueling nature of this endeavor was not lost on Phil Collins, who later recounted that he had no prior knowledge that he would be performing with Led Zeppelin that night. Initially, he believed it was a performance featuring individual members showcasing their solo work. His only preparation consisted of listening to Led Zeppelin's epic track, Stairway to Heaven, during the flight to familiarize himself with the material. In the aftermath of the Live Aid performance, Led Zeppelin's guitarist, Jimmy Page, did not speak kindly of Phil Collins when discussing the event with MTV. Page did not mention Collins by name, but criticized the one drummer who had been halfway across the Atlantic and struggled with the material. This incident left a cloud of controversy and bitterness surrounding the collaboration. Even in 2021, the wounds from this unexpected musical venture had not completely healed. Jimmy Page expressed his continued dissatisfaction, describing the entire situation as not very clever and recalling the drummer's difficulty with the beginning of Rock and Roll, one of Led Zeppelin's signature songs. The enduring bitterness between Page and Collins over the Live Aid performance serves as a testament to the challenges and complexities that can arise in the world of rock music, even among legendary musicians. Nick Collins, the son of the legendary musician Phil Collins, faced a unique and extraordinary kind of pressure when he stepped onto the stage to perform alongside his father. Their relationship as father and son added a layer of complexity to their musical collaboration, creating a dynamic that was both special and challenging. Nick's journey into the world of drumming alongside his father began when he was just 15 years old. Taking the stage alongside a drumming icon like Phil Collins was a daunting task for any young musician, but Nick embraced the experience with a deep sense of admiration and respect for his father's talent. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Nick revealed that while other drummers often looked up to various influences, he had always looked up to his father. This unique perspective allowed him to approach the songs with a sense of familiarity, as he was essentially following in his father's footsteps. As time passed and Nick Collins continued to evolve as a drummer and musician, he found himself performing not only with his father but also with his own band. In a 2022 interview with Rolling Stone, Nick had just completed a significant milestone by playing at Genesis's final show, marking the end of an era for the iconic band. At the time, he was only 20 years old, and his insights into Phil Collins's life were particularly profound, given their close family ties. Nick acknowledged that it had been a challenging experience for him to step into his father's shoes on stage while not physically being able to play the drums himself. However, the emotional weight of this situation was lightened by the fact that it was his own son taking his place. This transition symbolized a passing of the torch within the Collins family and signified a deeply personal moment in their musical journey. Beyond the musical aspect, Nick recognized that his father, Phil Collins, was likely looking forward to the next chapter in his life. Phil's career had spanned over 5 decades, and music had been a central focus throughout his life. Nick believed that the prospect of stepping back from the pressure and demands of a long and illustrious career would be a welcome change for his father. It represented an opportunity for Phil Collins to explore new horizons and enjoy a different pace of life, unburdened by the constant demands of the music industry. Marilyn Martin. Marilyn Martin's collaboration with Phil Collins on the hit song Separate Lives marked a significant milestone in her career, but her journey in the music industry had already seen her work with renowned artists like Joe Walsh and Stevie Nicks. In a 2013 interview for the blog Kickin' It Old School, Martin shared her reflections on the experience and her admiration for Phil Collins. At the time she was approached for Separate Lives, Martin admitted that she had no idea how she had secured the opportunity, but she was grateful for the chance to work with Phil Collins. Her memories of the song and her collaboration with Collins were overwhelmingly positive. Martin described Collins as perfection and highlighted his kindness and unwavering focus during their time together. Their initial meeting at a dinner party that also included Eric Clapton added to the charm of her experience. Martin further revealed that Phil Collins had been thoughtful and supportive during their collaboration. When she embarked on recording her own album, Collins sent her a cassette containing some songs that he thought would be well suited for her. This gesture underscored his generosity and genuine interest in her musical journey. During the recording of Separate Lives, Martin faced the challenge of dealing with a sore throat. Despite this obstacle, she poured her heart and soul into the performance, striving to give her best for the duet. Her dedication to the project was evident in the final result, which would go on to become a major success. The song Separate Lives was originally intended for the soundtrack of the movie White Nights. Martin admitted that she had not initially anticipated the song's enormous success outside of its cinematic context. However, when she heard it playing on the radio, she was taken aback by the reality of the situation. Martin described feeling incredibly humbled and almost dreamlike, as it was challenging to comprehend that the voice she heard on the radio was her own. The unexpected success of the song added a remarkable chapter to her career, solidifying her place in the music industry and leaving an enduring mark on her musical journey. Steve Hackett. Steve Hackett, the long-standing guitarist of Genesis, provided an insightful perspective on the band's evolution and dynamics, shedding light on the transition from Peter Gabriel to Phil Collins. In a 2021 interview with Rock and Roll Garage, Hackett painted a vivid picture of the contrast between the two frontmen. Hackett described Peter Gabriel as an actor on stage, akin to the theatrical and visually captivating performances of David Bowie. Gabriel's stage presence was characterized by his dramatic flair and storytelling, engaging the audience in a highly visual manner. However, when it came to Phil Collins, Hackett noted a stark difference. Collins had a unique ability to connect with the audience on a personal level, holding them in the palm of his hand with his charismatic and relatable demeanor. Hackett emphasized that Collins possessed the common touch, a quality that endeared him to fans and made him an exceptional frontman in his own right. Despite Hackett's admiration for Collins, his love for the band's earlier Peter Gabriel era remained evident. In an interview with the Metal Voice, Hackett expressed immense pride in the accomplishments of Genesis during the Gabriel years. He highlighted the significance of receiving a shout-out from none other than John Lennon, which was one of the most flattering moments of his career. This acknowledgement underscored the remarkable impact that Genesis, especially during the Gabriel era, had on the music industry and their peers. However, Hackett's love for Phil Collins was equally apparent. In a conversation with Ultimate Classic Rock, Hackett addressed a statement made by Collins in his memoir, where Collins alleged that Hackett had not been entirely forthright when leaving the band. Hackett openly acknowledged the truth of Collins's claim, shedding light on his emotional attachment to his bandmate. He explained that his deep affection for Phil Collins led him to withhold his true intentions when departing from Genesis. Hackett confessed that he loved Collins and was hesitant to allow him the opportunity to convince him to stay. He believed that if they had discussed his departure more openly, he and Collins might have continued working together for many more years to come. What do you think about the comments from Phil Collins' friends? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.